Are the Steelers better than the Baltimore Ravens? I'm going to make a case for yes. I don't know if I believe it, but I'm going to make the case. The Ravens have the worst defense in the NFL.
They're number one?
They're 26th in points allowed. They are 32nd in pass defense. So they have the worst pass defense in the NFL. But they're giving up a ton of points. They're giving up a ton of yards. Now, offensively, they're first in yards and points. The Ravens are. So their offense right now is the best in the National Football League. I don't know if this has been updated. Obviously, the Lions are putting up a lot of points too, but they're right there. Ravens, one of, if not the best offenses in the NFL, and maybe the best offense that the Ravens have had in the Lamar Jackson era. But their defense is horrific. Meanwhile, the Steelers average offensively, 16th in the league in points. And then you look at the Steelers' defense, second in points allowed, 8th in yards allowed. They're right up there in takeaways. They get after the quarterback. So the Steelers' defense, really good. Steelers' offense, average. Ravens' offense, really, really good. Defense, really, really bad. So I think you can make the case the Steelers are at least a more well-rounded team than the Baltimore Ravens. They got multiple ways, weirdly as it is to say, the Steelers got multiple ways to beat you. The Ravens basically have to outscore you right now.
Yeah, they definitely are balanced. But I think it really comes down to, like, do you think that the Steelers' defense is better than the Ravens' offense? Or do they just have to be better than the Ravens' offense one or two games? At first I was like, no, they're not better than the Ravens. But now that I think through it, one game, I might take the Steelers defense against the Ravens offense.
Well,
which is crazy, but I would.
That's how I feel about the Ravens all the time.
Right.
Is the Steelers have beat them 7 out of 8 times. Now, some of that's Lamar not being there, but they've largely played well against Lamar in his career. They've always game planned well for Lamar, like you're saying. And so if the Steelers take care of business tonight, it's so big because you feel like the Steelers are going to get the Ravens at least one time. You want a little bit of breathing room between you and them. And the Ravens just lost a division game, which, that's going to affect you in the tiebreakers. You'd like to think the Steelers could beat the Browns twice. We'll see how this all goes with Jameis Winston. I still don't think they're a good football team. But if you can have a little bit of breathing room between you and Baltimore and you take care of business at home, I mean, the Steelers could be up on them 2 games, 3 weeks from now, which would be massive. Are the Bengals done at 3-5?
I would never count them out, but they're not a threat.
Yeah.
They could be a threat, like a thorn in the Steelers side. Like, hey, they're out of it. We know that they're not going to make the playoffs, and we know that they're not going to make any noise, and then they beat the Steelers. And it's like, oh my gosh. This team,
they could definitely beat them.
Right, exactly. That's kind of how I look at the Bengals. They're kind of pesty, or, they could be. Whenever the Steelers have their sights on, we're talking right now, if the Steelers do this, if they do that, look what they'll be. They'll be, North champions. But then the Bengals beat them in a game where they should win or something.
Every time Joe Burrow walks on the field, they're going to have a chance to win.
Absolutely.
There's no doubt about that. But they got their doors blown off yesterday by another team that I thought was, a sheep in wolf's clothing. I'm not a huge believer in the Eagles. They're warming up to it. What do you like?
No. Just keep going.
Sheep in wolves' clothing they're doing. We're doing a lot of animal talk this morning.
Right.
There seems to be this national discourse on the Bengals. Oh, they'll figure it out. They'll figure it out. They'll figure it out.
It's getting too late. It's getting dark early.
It is getting dark early. Bang, there's another analogy. I just don't think they're that good. Well, we talk about the Ravens defense being bad because it is. The Bengals defense is bad. It's real bad. They were a favorite yesterday at home against the Eagles. They lose by 20 points. That's not a good football team. Could they make the playoffs? Sure. But like you said, it gets dark early. They got the Raiders next week. You should beat the Raiders, so let's say you're 4-5. But then you're at the Ravens on Thursday night. They're not going to be able to tackle Derrick Henry.
Mm-mm.
That team can't tackle anybody. Then they're at the Chargers. Then it's the Steelers. Then it's the Cowboys. They can only afford to probably lose, 2 more games?
Yep.
I do think 10-7 is going to would get you into the playoffs. I think you're probably going to see a 9-win team in the AFC make the playoffs this year. It's a top heavy conference.
Mm-hmm.
They can't lose more than 2 games. And you look at their schedule and you see the way they're playing, I think they're going to lose more than 2 games. I don't think they're making it.
Do they have a significant win that they've won? What's their record? 3-5. 3-5. Like, what the win? So we'd have to look through this right now. I don't know if their wins are that significant.
They lost to the Patriots.
Right.
They lost to the Chiefs. They lost to the Commanders, which looks better now with age. They beat the Panthers. They lost to the Ravens. They beat the Giants.
17-7.
17-7. And they beat the Brownies last week when it was all
21-14. So, like, they're winning by a score.
And they won last week on the back of a kickoff return for a touchdown, which, hey, that counts. But that was the difference in the football game. Their offense didn't move it all that well against the Browns. So, are the Bengals finished? Well, mathematically, no, but mathematically it's very hard for them now. But just watch them play. They don't have the look of a good football team. They are what the record says they are, and I think people have been waiting for them to bounce back. I picked them to win the division. You were kind of down on them from the start. I think you're right on them. At best, they're an above-average football team, but they're not playing that way right now, and it's absolutely a 2-horse race in the AFC North. Like, they are not winning the division. That much I'm sure of, and the Browns at 2-6, they're out of it.
Right.
So it's Steelers and Ravens.
Whose 2 losses look worse? Ravens or Steelers? Ravens losing to the Raiders and the Browns, Steelers losing to the Colts and the Cowboys. Whose losses are worse?
Good question.
You know? Because, you look at the Cowboys game, you lose by, last score.
Right.
Under the wire.
You knock a pass down, you're sitting here at 6-1. Didn't happen.
Backup quarterback.
With the Colts.
Well, you.
Oh, right, with Justin Fields.
Right.
Yeah, he's their backup. Crazy.
Yep. I feel like the Ravens' 2 losses are bad. Like that loss yesterday was bad.
I don't know.
Raiders lost bad at home.
Yeah, I can't believe that they lost to the Raiders at home. And now you lose to the Browns. And usually, and maybe this is anecdotal, but I always feel like when the Ravens are good, historically, they kick the hell out of bad teams at home.
Right.
Their offense is special. There is no way you can take anything away from that unit. But we never see a Ravens defense this bad. And they had no answer for the tight end, Brock Bowers, in that Raiders game. And the Colts are kind of feisty. Now, the thing about the Dallas loss for the Steelers is that they didn't have Micah Parsons. They didn't have Lawrence.
True.
So that kind of hurts. And they threw it all over the place on you for 400-plus yards. So I'd still say the Ravens' losses are worse. But the Steelers' losses aren't great either.